Right? Can you hear me all right? Let me know if you can hear the sound of my voice. Do me a favor, just chat into the chat box on the right-hand side. And if you can chat in and let me know that you can hear the sound of my voice, that would be really helpful. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you still hear me okay? Thank you, Arif. It seems like you guys can hear me well now, right? Thank you very much. Awesome. So we're going to get started here. I'd like to say a big thank you to the folks who have joined, the people who have sent in a few questions here and there. Thank you very much. The real purpose of this meeting is to have a touch point. We have a lot of students out there, lots of people started on the 5th edition journey. You obviously know that the book has changed. Hopefully this is the book you are reading right now. Hang on a second. Just to be sure, I hope you are not reading this one. This is the wrong book to read. Don't even take a look at this. If you don't have this, please don't read this, because that's poison right there. This is the book you want to be studying, okay? PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Now, right off the bat, I'd like to let you know that this book should be read. Don't scrimp around the book. Read the whole thing out of order, in order. It doesn't matter. From back to front, front to back, from the middle to the back, from the middle to the front. You're going to be doing yourself a whole lot of good. Some of the questions we had this afternoon are asking about the exam content and whether they should read the book, whether they should read all the details. I'm going to be addressing all of that. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Harsh, to Saeed, to Dom, to Mr. Hussein, anyone else who sent in questions. Thank you very much for sending those in. So let's start off by addressing these questions. Questions about the exam. So let's go straight to that. We have one here from Saeed. Do real PMP exam have more percentage of situational questions? I think that's what he meant to ask, right? Does the real PMP exam have more situational questions? I think he's trying to ask, what is the real exam like as far as percentage of situational questions versus ITTO type questions? And it's a good question to ask, because I've heard from a lot of people, both on social media, real life, people who take the exam. The first thing that they usually say is, my goodness, I didn't know I was going to have that amount of situational questions. You are going to have a lot of situational questions. You're going to have so many situational questions, you won't even believe it. So out of about 200, this is typically what I hear on social media, on the boards. And if you're not on LinkedIn, in the PMI's group on LinkedIn, you might want to join that group, because there's a lot of buzz about the exam. And when people succeed, they usually come on and tell you the experience and how bad or good it was. So what I typically hear is well over 60 to 70% are situational. I've heard from some students, they say it was 90% situational. So you can expect to get a lot of questions such as, you're a project manager in a functional organization, you have been made the project manager, this and this and this happens, what should you do next? Now, you need to know in such an organization, you don't have that much power, do you? So the response to a question like that is going to be different from a question that says, you're a project manager in a project-oriented organization, this and this happened, what should you do next? Or what is the best thing to do? The answer could be different, but it's still situational. And that's where chapters 1, 2, and 3 come in. I want to implore you, read chapters 1, 2, and 3, because when the questions are being built, the language in the question is going to be based on the basics, programs, projects, operations, project-based organization or project-oriented organization, PMOs, organic organizations. The language is going to be based on that stuff. So while the question is not a namby-pamby, what type of organization is this? No, it won't be that. But the language in the question to set up the question is going to be from chapters 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So, Saeed, to answer your question, the percentage of situational questions to expect on the exam, I will definitely put it up there in the 70s to 90s. Based on what I've heard, I will always take the most conservative look towards the exam. So if someone says, oh, it's about 50 to 60%, in my mind, I'm going to amp it up and say, I'm going for the higher end, I'm going for the outliers, the people who have said 90%. That is what I will go with. It's like your estimate. You want to weigh the negative end of the spectrum more than the other ends. So for me, I would go with the 90% for sure. Okay, so be aware of that. Very good question. Next question here from Mr. Hussein, and the question is common ITTOs for each knowledge area. That's a really great question. I believe his question is alluding to what are the common ITTOs that you can expect on the exam. Well, they're very, very basic. When you go through the entire PMBOK guide, there are not that many ITTOs. In fact, I'm going to show them to you right now. So let me go a little bit forward in my presentation here so that I can show you that. Let me advance it a little bit. Let's go forward a few steps. Okay. So I call this one PMBOK Guide 6th edition, all inputs in minutes. So really quick, let's take a look at these inputs, all of the inputs that is. Okay, so you can't see it too well. Let me see if I can make an adjustment. I don't know if that would help. No, not helping. So I think the lighting is making it a little bit hard to read. Let me try and adjust this PowerPoint so that you can see it better. Maybe I'll change the color of the background so that you can see it a lot better. So hang tight, Mr. Hussein. I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to tweak up the color or maybe the format. Let's see. All right. Let's use one of these. Okay, so this will make it easier for people to see. And this is just really scrappy. I'm doing this off the cuff. So it's not going to be fancy or anything, but it's going to enable you see what's going on. All right. So the first one that we've got here, it actually starts from accepted, or it starts from agreement. Okay. So here's the first one. This is the first input, and right now I'm talking about the inputs. I'm not talking about the tools and techniques. I'll show you that separately. All right. So Mr. Hussein, this is in response to your question. The inputs are very straightforward. Agreements, any agreements that you have on the project, SLAs, MOUs, what have you. Next one is approved change requests. Change requests approved by the Change Control Board. Next one, business documents, your business case and your benefits management plan. Next one is change requests, change orders, change requests people might have. Next one is deliverables. These deliverables that you get from direct and managed project work. Next one is EEFs, talked about at length in chapter 2. Factors that can influence your project. Next one is OPAs, any lessons learned or the corporate knowledge base, processes and procedures, that sort of thing. Outputs from other processes, which is all of your baselines and subsidiary plans, development approach, your project or product life cycle, things like that. Procurement documentation, all of those procurement documents, bid documents, RFPs, RFQs, RFIs, things that may fall into that bucket. Project charter, we already know what that is. Project documents, these are talked about at length on page 89. So if you haven't looked at page 89, folks, this is a must read for your exam. And what else? Project funding requirements. These are the funding requirements for your project in total and also periodically. The project management plan, also talked about at length on page 89. You definitely want to know all those parts. Seller proposals, which come from the people bidding on the project. Team performance assessments, as your team go through training, they need to be assessed. And this is pretty much the result of whether they have learned anything sensible, whether they have gotten up to speed with what they needed to or not. Verify deliverables comes from control quality. This is you, your team, they have checked the deliverable. It's verified if it is now found to be fit for use. Work performance data, raw observations that you make on your project that enable you further analyze that data to glean information that becomes reports. Work performance information, the work performance data now analyzed becomes work performance information, and that gets put into a work performance report. And believe it or not, that's it, folks. Those are all of your inputs. I specifically address the inputs because a lot of the inputs become their outputs and they become inputs, if you get what I mean. So, Mr. Hussein, talking about the commonalities, if I were you, I would approach it from this higher level. You know, go through the video again. All of these things I've mentioned, know them for yourself. And when you see them as inputs, you're not going to be spending hours on end scrambling for what they mean, because you saw it took so quick to go through all of this stuff that are inputs. And a lot of the inputs are actually outputs. Now, there are some sub-outputs which are on page 89, which should be quite straightforward to you, because I know you've been studying the PMBOK guide, Mr. Hussein, for a while. So I'm guessing things like the plans, the subsidiary plans, the baselines, that stuff you already know quite well. So I know you won't be having sleepless nights about that. But my approach will be to first of all get all of the inputs down. Now I'm going to show you my next approach. My next approach will be to hammer down those tools and techniques. So let me show you how I would approach this, how I would approach the tools and techniques. I would do exactly the same thing. In fact, let me just ask you to do it right now. Go to page 686, folks, 686. Go to page 686. You see that? That one right there? That is what I'm going to be talking about really rapidly. I'm just going to be giving you a few pointers, you know, as far as what I think you should do to master the content. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to pull up a sheet that will underscore what I'm saying a little bit better. Just bear with me. So while I'm doing that, I'll just let you know what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is that you should go through all of these tools and techniques first. And I'm talking about before you go into your massive deep dive for the actual exam. Page 686, all the way on down to the table runs out. My advice would be for you to hit that table really hard, and know every single piece of that table, all the definitions, everything, such that you're not confused about the tools and techniques as you're going through. It's going to be a very straightforward pass through the information instead of you having to stop every 2 seconds asking, oh, what's this, what's that? You know, those of you like Arif who have been on the program, you've watched these videos, Arif, right? You've watched all of the tools and techniques video, because we went through all of the tools and techniques. And that's exactly what I would recommend that you do. All right. So this table, this is the table on page 686. I'm going to show it to you. I cannot share this table with you, so please don't ask. But hey, good idea. You can make yours. So take a look at the table here. And my approach would be, oh, it's not very clear, unfortunately. Let me see if I can make it any different. Let me see if I can share my actual screen with you guys. See if this will work. No, I don't think I can, unfortunately. Yeah, this isn't going to work. No. Okay, so it's unfortunate. I don't know if you can see any of this screen at all, but it's totally whited out because of the background. Let me see if I can make it bigger, and that might help. Hold on a sec. Oh, no, didn't mean to do that. Okay. Wow, now it's a monster size. Okay. Let me see if this will help. Okay, you kind of get the idea just a little bit. But all of these terms that are on this table, right? All of them from top to bottom, all of these grouped and ungrouped tools and techniques. I'm sorry, it's not really working out very well. But the grouped and ungrouped tools and techniques, folks, you know, starting from page 686, page 687, 688, all the way down to you totally exhaust the table. This is what I would advise you to do. Get a notepad, get a paper, get a pen, and for each of these, I think they're roughly, let's say they're about 100, maybe up to 100 or so. All of these terminologies, why don't you just jot down your own interpretation of what these things really are, just in your own words. So where you've got like multi-criteria decision analysis, for example, you take a look at page 689 under decision-making tools and techniques. Take MCDA. How about you take that and you study it, flesh it out, make sure you understand it. So when you see it as a recurring theme in the PMBOK guide, it's not going to move you. It's not going to phase you. You know, the problem with a lot of people getting ready for the exam, they get to the tools and techniques and they're like, oh, I don't understand it. How about taking time out and studying nothing but tools and techniques? All of them, all 100 and whatever number they are, all of them. Just go through all the tools and techniques. Make sure you understand them. We've done it in our PMP exam power review session, you know, which is on Praizion.com. We did that. We went through every single one of them live. Some of you who are on this call were actually on those meetings. I don't know if you've gone back to watch the videos or if you've taken down your own notes, but I can tell you my champions who have recently killed the exam, that's what they did. You know, made copious notes of the different items, you know, and they watched those videos again and again. So going through all of the inputs, all of the tools and techniques, without the context of knowledge area, without the context of process group, it is going to help you. I really believe that that will help lots of you who are stuck. You're studying a knowledge area, you get to this crazy tool and technique and it throws you off. How about doing the front loading, doing all of the tools and techniques up front? You know, maybe you've gone through a course, our course, another course, but you've gone through a 35-hour course. That's just the beginning. That's the foundation. Next step is to lay a solid slab of inputs, know all the inputs. So if someone mentions some input, you can explain it. And then the next layer is going to be your page 686. Let me break this down really quick for you, because a lot of people are not really aware of how PMI has changed things in this edition, in the 6th edition. So on page 686, first of all, they start off with data gathering tools and techniques. These are tools and techniques used to gather data, to collect information from various sources, and there are 9 of these data gathering tools and techniques: benchmarking, brainstorming, check sheets, not to be confused with checklist. A check sheet collects data, a checklist reminds you of stuff. Focus groups, interviews, market research, questionnaires and surveys, and statistical sampling. Those are your data gathering tools and techniques. You need to know all those codes. So when you see them, you know, as a recurring theme in all of those chapters, it's going to be like no big deal. Yeah, I know I need to collect data for that. And just so you know, the way to use the table is the bolden numbers are where there's more juice, so to speak, where there's a higher degree of concentration or explanation. And the PMI actually call that out. Those boldened areas, those are the ones you really want to hone in on first before looking at all of the other ones. So take benchmarking. Benchmarking is used in 5.2. Hopefully, if you've been studying enough, you know chapter 5 is scope, and you know point 2 means the second process in scope. So the second process in scope is chatting to me. Let me make sure you're still on top of your game. Chat into me. What is the second process in scope? You guys know that? Second process in scope. You're taking too long. Second process in scope. My goodness, I could have gone to Timbuktu and come back. No one's chatting into me. Second process in scope management. Okay, the second process in scope management is my goodness, where's everyone? You've already timed out? Okay, second process in scope is collect requirements. Thank you, Vinay. Oh, Vinay saved the day. Thank you, Vinay. Absolutely. Thank you. Arif saved the day as well. Thank you, Dara. Oh, everyone's woken up. Jennifer, you're here. Good to see you. I appreciate that. Mantanona, thank you very much. Oh, you guys are on your game. Okay, there's probably some lag. I get you. Good. Thank you very much. So what this table is trying to make you see is where each tool and technique is used. Like, you know, please look at this table and do it all the justice you can. This is really going to help you. Page 686 on down. If I had my way, I would go in a time machine back to 2005 and I would have created this for myself when I took the PMP exam. You see, page 685, it says, the PMBOK Guide 6th edition presents tools and techniques differently from other editions. Where appropriate, this edition groups tools and techniques by their purpose. So while it's a pain in some way, it's actually a blessing as well, because having this table helps you see where every tool is used without you having to go through 756 pages. Just go through about 8 pages, 9 pages, and you're good. You can see where each tool and technique is used. It's priceless, folks. So that's data gathering, for example. Next one is data analysis tools and techniques. And it goes through all of the tools and techniques that are in data analysis, all the way from alternatives analysis and then to what if scenario analysis on page 688. You see? And then you've got page 689, which goes into data representation. Because think about it. You need to gather data, and then you need to represent data, or analyze the data and then represent the data. So all of this stuff makes sense. And then you've got to make decisions, regarding different things on the project. Those are tools and techniques on 689. Also, communication skills. Need we say more? You know that. Project manager spends 90% of the time communicating. Interpersonal and team skills, tools and techniques. Next page. And then these are my favorites, because this holds true to the 5th edition, and I don't need to do too much brain work to convert over to the 6th when it comes to the ungrouped. Most of the ungrouped tools and techniques have been around, in the PMBOK guide for going to a decade, to be honest. Lots of them. Not every single one of them, but a whole lot of them. The estimatings, product analysis, prototypes. Design for X is new, And with that said, if you're looking at page 692, those that you can see that appear in just one process, those ones are your low-hanging fruit for the exam, because if they came out, you should know those cold, hopefully, like dependency determination and integration. That only appears in 6.3. Design for X only appears in 8.2. Financing only appears in 7.3, determine budget. Same for funding limit reconciliation. Ground rules only appears in 13.3. You see, you were used to seeing ground rules in the previous human resources, but now we see ground rules in stakeholder management, in managed stakeholder engagement. So right off the bat, folks, there's a lot of stuff you can get from these pages, a lot, a treasure trove. And in fact, in the next week, you're going to be seeing released on the Praizion site the ITTO reviews for tools and techniques only, just tools and techniques. I did a separate 5-hour session outside of the power review to really dig into the tools and techniques, right? And those of you that come on board the program, you'll find this thing behind me, which is an Excel sheet that filters out all of the tools and techniques. You'll find that to be useful. So just stay tuned to the channel and look out on the Praizion site. You'll see this appear. You'll also see the project management audio digest appear shortly. So those are some additional tools we're going to be bringing out to help. But all of this was started by Mr. Hussein, who asked the great question, common tools, common ITTOs. So when it comes to these ITTOs, my goodness, don't even get me started on those, because once I get going, I don't want to stop talking about them. All right, let's move on to our next question. So, Mr. Hussein, I hope that answered the question you had. So let's go back here. Let's go to the next question. Mr. Dera, thank you very much for sending in that question. I'm going to take questions live as well as we continue to move forward. So that was Said's question. Look who's here. Look who's stuck here. Your friend Pimpy. Yeah, that's a good place for him for today. All right. Next question is from Harsh. And let me see if I can adjust this light so you can see a bit more of this. Does that help? Not very much. All right, but I'll read the question. He says, my question is on a similar line as others, that there is so much theory and bullet points under each topic. Are we to remember all the points? Is the exam just the application of the theory? Would read the PMBOK once or twice and then solving the questions papers be enough? So I think he means, would reading the PMBOK guide once or twice and then solving the question papers be enough? So Harsh, are you on the call? Because I'm wondering what you mean by the question papers. Can you clarify that for me? Just a bit. Okay, can you clarify Harsh? If Harsh is on, Harsh, can you please clarify what exactly you were thinking of, like when you say question papers? Are there some specific question papers you've got? If you can clarify that, that would be extremely helpful. Because when you talk about question papers, to my knowledge, there's the PMI. It's not as if PMI has any special question papers out there. So what exactly are you thinking of when you say that? I don't see anything from you, Harsh. Okay, Harsh, I'm gonna assume that Harsh is not on. So let me go back to what's on the screen. I'm hoping you can see it a little bit better. But it says, let me tackle the first part. My question is on a similar line that there is so much theory and bullet points under each topic. Are we to remember all the points? So here's the trick, folks. Here's the trick. Let me turn this back on. Here's the trick. And the trick is, you're going to have to understand the points. You may not remember all the points verbatim, but you have to get into the flow and know the logic of the points. Let me show you a common one that a lot of people often, they just fly over it without noticing. If you've got your PMBOK guide at home, folks, oh, hang on, that was the wrong question. Open up your PMBOK guide. There shouldn't be a question of if you've got the PMBOK guide. I expect you to. You should. In fact, you should have it on your smartphone. You know, as you're getting ready for the exam, you need to be wired, you need to be armed, you need to be loaded up on this stuff so that you can read it on the go. All right, so I'm going to be reading from the PMBOK guide, page 77, just a few things that I've noticed people often fly right over. Okay, page 77, it says at the top, the project charter establishes a partnership between the performing and requesting organizations. So on the exam, and I've done this firsthand, I've given people this question. I'm like, which of the following is true or which of the following is false? And you won't believe it. The whole population got it wrong because they couldn't remember that the project charter establishes a partnership. Like, partnership is like a bit of a big word, but it's there in the PMBOK guide. You see my PMBOK guide highlighted? That's another thing you need to be doing, folks. If you're not highlighting your PMBOK guide, or maybe you're using OneNote or something else and taking, you know, little clips of it and making notes of that, you're going to miss a lot of this stuff because there's only so much you can remember. But if you write it down and you revise your notes, it's going to stick, right? Then, if you go about 4 lines down, it says, a project manager is identified and assigned as early in the project as is feasible, preferably while the project charter is being developed, and always prior to the start of planning. So another question would be, when is the project manager assigned? Always prior to planning, sometimes prior to planning. It's always. So there are little things in the guide. While you may not remember every single sentence, the philosophies about every concept, the mindset, you know, you need to mine into the book and extract those, you know, that mindset, that consciousness, that awareness. And once that sticks, that's okay. Here's another example. Talking about context diagrams versus logical data models. What are the differences? Do they have any commonalities? You need to know the essence of each of these definitions so that if you came across a question talking about logical data models versus, you know, the context diagram in your head, you know, okay, context diagram is quite elaborate in this and that respect. whereas logical data models are different in some other respects, or where is regression analysis used in the PMBOK guide and why and how? There are little things that if you don't take note of them when you come across them by highlighting and taking notes, you'll find it on the exam. You'll be like, oh, where did I come across this? Like, I don't even remember. You don't want to do that, folks. You got to be a note-taking, highlighting junkie. You got to be hungry to get this knowledge such that you become so into it that you're almost getting your fix by taking notes and highlighting and getting this great knowledge that you can use. What I'm talking about is even beyond the life of the PMP exam. What I'm telling you about, just having this approach, when it sticks in your head, boom, you'll be amazed that on your real world projects, you'll begin to use a lot of this stuff that you are extracting hungrily. So, the question, I hate to go off on a PMBOK rant, but he says there is so much theory. Yes, it's useful theory. And bullet points. Yes, you need to extract the essence, the highlights, Are we to remember all the points? You are to be able to extract the major points and understand them. Yes, and here is why. Because the PMP exam, folks, is one of the most unpredictable exams in the entire world. That's right. Among all of the exams to get certified, the PMP exam is crazy. Look, I've heard from all sorts of people, lawyers, doctors, talk about PEs and engineers, right? I've heard from all of them. Same recurring theme. Phil, this is a different animal. I was asking a doctor, I'm like, well, you're now a doctor, and what do you think about the PMP exam and the PMBOK guide and the syllabus? She says, Phil, it's totally different. It's a different animal. She didn't say, oh yeah, I've read lots of big books, so this is right down my alley. No, it's different. It's very different. And I don't want to give you, rose-tinted glasses to say, oh, Phil said I don't need to do this. No, you need to do everything under the sun to succeed. You need to go crazy. Lots of times, beyond the fact that we have a meeting today, I am in the office, studying, trying to do stuff, trying to understand stuff. You got to be brutal, aggressive, dogged, and rugged to get this monkey off your back, and to leave PMP alone and go to the next level. And whatever the next level is, you need to get it. So what I'm trying to say is the philosophy should be, I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to do everything I need to do. I'm going to unravel everything. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to highlight. I'm going to become a highlighting junkie. I'm going to become a highlighting monster. And I'm just going to go crazy. Take a look at hey, I'm not a student. But this is how far you need to go, folks. You're going to have to extract every drop of gold. So there are no shortcuts. I wish I could say, oh, well, just read all the high-level process information. No. You're going to have to be a junkie, wild, aggressive. You're going to have to be aggressive about your success. Think about it. I don't know about you guys, but $555 is a lot of money. And doing that 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, 7, if you're like a student I knew who passed on his 7th try, you don't want to make this a habit. That's 10 hours of a lot of project managers' lives, or I dare say 20 hours for those of them who are earning that kind of salary. When I took the exam, I couldn't even afford a boot camp. So I'm trying to get you in the mindset to leave no stone unturned. It is easy. It is easy to do this stuff, but you're going to have to be in the zone. You're going to have to zone out, close all the doors, focus, and get the stuff into your subconscious, into your system. Take notes. One of my students, Kristen, and some of you were on the call when Kristen spoke to us about a month ago. Kristen and Lauren, both of them, they took a ton of notes. Kristen sent in her notes, and there were 78 pages of notes. 78 pages, 8.5 by 11. I'm like, my goodness, You almost rewrote the PMBOK guide by taking all of these notes. But that's the level you need to get to. And it was no wonder when she went in, boom, killed the exam. Went in quick, killed it. Lauren in quick succession, 2 days after, went in, killed it. Nick also went in, killed it. All from the same class. So since we got done with our class in March, these folks have jumped in, studied, taken notes, read, killed the exam. And those of you who are on our regular lineup, those of you who sign up for the course, Nick is speaking to us on Saturday the 9th. All right, so if you've signed up for any of our curricula, be it the PMP exam prep camp, the PMP exam power review, the understanding the guide, if you don't have an invitation and you've signed up for one of those curricula, you need to send us an email to support@praizion.com and say, please invite me to Nick's discussion, because Nick, he killed that thing pretty bad. It was really bad. So we're talking about, when you talk about above targets, we're talking about 4 above targets and target. That is crazy on the 6th to have just been studying for that short period of time, didn't have any history from the 5th. So what am I trying to tell you? You gotta dig deep, folks. Just like these people, taking notes, feverishly. I can't remember how many emails I got from Nick, and Nick, if you're watching, you're probably gonna laugh. But Nick's like, is there another mock exam, Phil? Is there another mock exam? And when he finally took the mock exam, he killed it. That's been the highest on that 2020 mock, 80% or something crazy like that. So, I mean, this guy was really in the zone. But anyway, going back to Harsh's question, is the exam just the application of the theory? 2 things on the exam. 1, the theory in some respects, and 2, the application of the theory. So a lot of people, they have the theory, but they're not able to apply it. They could get some questions right. Or maybe they've got some theory, but can't apply all the theory. You need to be able to do both to do really well. Would you read the book once or twice? I would read that book just like I did on my exam. My exam, I read that book 2.5 times, folks. 2.5 times. The half was, I need to give you the visual. So when my exam came out, just imagine this book was still hanging around and I started studying this book, let's say January, only to realize, I need to be reading this one. So I read this about half time, and this I read twice. Absolutely. And study guides, also I would, in addition to that, read the study guide twice. So for my exam, to be honest, I read my study guide twice. I read the PMBOK guide 2.5 times, and I took notes like a maniac. I had a BlackBerry. I would send myself emails about the content, because in those days there were no iPhones, no smartphones. So my BlackBerry, I would send stuff to myself. I would surround myself. Don't let me go on about that. So anyway, so in this regard, I would read the PMBOK guide 2.5 times, folks, just like I did on my exam. Okay, twice to be serious, twice. I don't want to read the wrong PMBOK guide. So that half, even though it helped me in chapters 1, 2, 3, a bit of 4, I would hit the real PMBOK guide twice for sure, at a minimum. That would be my advice. And here's why I say you should do that. The reason why I say hit this book twice is I get a lot of comments. Phil, the language on the exam was esoteric. It was weird. It was out there. Just reading the question made me tired. And I'm like, okay, that is a symptom of lack of PMBOK guide usage. You're not taking your recommended dose on the tin. You're playing around with your PMBOK study. You need to be a junkie. Look, if you can get through the language. One of my students out of Canada, he said, Phil, PMBOK guide is better than Ambien. I'm like, you better change your attitude for your exam. You better make this something else, some other drug I'd probably not disclose on this call. You better let this be your, like a PMBOK crack or something else. You better let that fire you up, because it's going to help you. So the attitude towards the book should be, I need to go through this rite of passage to get my head in the right place. Look, lots of people, they come out gloating. Oh, I didn't read the PMBOK guide and I passed the exam. Woohoo! I'm like, isn't that a disgrace? Why are you jubilating about not reading the standard? So if your boss calls you into the office and asks you if you've read the standard, you're certified, we need you to set up a PMO, we need you to implement some of these things. You've read the PMBOK guide, Phil, right? It's shameful. Read the thing, read it. The exam is based on it. Some people play Russian roulette, with the exam prep. Instead of reading the book, they keep trying to dodge reading it. Anyway, I'm on broken record mode. I apologize. This stuff, because I've seen and heard so many students succeed and fail at the same time, this stuff fires me up. And I want everyone to know, read the book. You're not doing yourself favors by boycotting the reading of the book. What are you going to lose? Can you imagine some people saying, Phil, I don't have time to read the PMBOK guide. I'm like, are you a clown? Do you want to fail this thing? I know some people have passed without reading it, but that's their cup of tea. That's their own fortune or misfortune. Read the book, because I don't want to leave any stones unturned. I don't want to. I want to lick the stuff all up like I'm a junkie, like I'm getting my fix on. That's the level that that I want you to be in. Okay, I've spent too long on this. So read it twice. Solving questions and papers. The reason why I say solving the questions and papers, oh dear, Harsh, it's like you knew what would get me going, Harsh, because you've asked me questions that I could speak about all night. I probably should let you guys get off this call quick, but let me tell you, it's not about solving problems and questions on just any old exam. It's about doing mock exams that will boot you into the middle of next week and get your head retuned right. Those are the mock exams you want to be taking, because too many namby-pamby mock exams. Oh dear, I knew this would get me started. Let me just move on. Bottom line, Harsh, don't rely on mock exams that have not been tested and tried. You want to make sure that the mock exams and the questions you're referring to are those that are really superb and do the job. Let's move on. I spent too long on that one, Harsh. All right. Another question from Harsh. 6th edition seems to be divided into 2 parts. That's right. 1A, guide. 1, a guide to the project management body of knowledge, PMBOK guide, and part 2, the standard for project management. Can you please explain the logic behind the division, the exam weightages, etc.? Great question. So let's talk about the book, the way it's divided. And the PMI actually give you some background about this. So if you want the standard, right, for managing projects, the standard, this is on page 539. It's called the standard for project management right there. See it? That's what he's talking about. A lot of people don't go to the part 2, but I'll just read a blurb from 541. It says a standard is a document established by an authority, custom, or general consent as a model example. This standard was developed using a process based on the concepts of consensus, openness, due process, and balance. This standard describes the processes considered to be good practice on most projects most of the time. These processes are organized by process group. So when I train Project Management 101, Project Management Basics, I'm not going to take people through the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. That's the body of knowledge. That's going a little bit deep. I usually stay in this zone and I cover the information by process group. And for your exam, please read it. I would recommend that you at least go through it. There's going to be a little bit of overlap, just a little bit of overlap. But for the most part, I would say this is very important. For example, page 549 has an image, impact of variables over time. In the 5th edition, this stuff was up front in chapter 1, chapter 2. Now it's been moved to part 2. If you go to 551, you see a few examples that look like what you've seen in chapter 3, but for the most part, This stuff is a very high level breakdown of the processes, not the tools and techniques, but pretty much this is what you're using and this is what you're getting. And I would say go through it. In fact, my advice to anyone coming on the PMBOK guide for the first time, I would actually take them through part 2 first. It's going to be rapid, it's going to be quite easy. And then after going through part 2, going by process group, then you can read the PMBOK guide chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then go by knowledge area. It's going to be a lot easier. I would expect that everything in the PMBOK guide in its entirety is fair game, everything. I wouldn't say, oh, we're excluded from part 2. No, you're not. For example, look at figure 1-5 on page 555. That is everyday life of the project manager. That is really what a project looks like. That's why when a student said, Phil, can you draw out process by process? What happens in the world of the PMI? I laughed. I'm like, that's not possible. And anyone who's given you a linear cookie cutter, do 1, do 2, do 3, they got it all wrong. Because figure 1-5 is the example of process group interactions within a project or phase. That is exactly what happens in the real world. 1 minute you're acquiring the team, next minute you're ending a phase, next minute you got a vendor, a consultant, a contractor that has violated the contract, you're doing ADR, next minute you're in a status meeting. It's all mixed up, folks, just like page 555. So, Harsh, going back to your question, can you please explain the logic behind the division? One part divides the standard for managing projects on its own, and the other part is the project management body of knowledge guide. And the entire thing, it all falls into the wider body of knowledge of project management, and therefore is fair game on the exam. All right? The exam is not weighted in any way, like everything comes from 1 or everything comes from 2. But I would say majority of your exam, of course, will come from 1, where you have the tools and techniques talked about. Think about it. If I gave you flour, egg, milk, sugar, and said, give me a cake, what would you say? You would say, Phil, I need an oven. I need a blender. I need a mixer. So without really knowing the tools of the trade, the blender, the mixer, what do you call it? How to whisk those eggs. There's some egg whisking techniques, I guess. Without knowing those tools and techniques, you can't give me a really nice cake on the, I could understand the concept. Oh, here are the ingredients and there's the cake. But the tools and techniques are the juice, folks, that makes everything come alive. And that's why part 1, when you really look at it, it's a deep dive into this is the essence of how you do it. Not just that you do it, but the essence of how. The fact that you do it, I see that more in chapter 2, what you do in part 2 rather, but the how, the essence, the details, the excruciating details, they're in part 1. So these are both important for the exam. Another question that comes up as a result of this, Harsh, is about the breakdown on the exam. So I'd like to cover that in a little bit of detail here. Let me see if I can pull that up for you guys. Give me a second here. Let me see. Bear with me. Okay, I might have to refer you to the PMP exam content outline. Maybe we just do this together right here. So if you go to Google, hey, don't lose us, don't type into your browser though. PMP exam content outline. I'm always referring to the outline. Some people say, Phil, I don't find any use of this outline. What's the point? And I say there is value in the content outline, you know. Highly advise that you take a look at the content outline. One second here. See. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay. I was trying to get my Google Chrome open so that we can just take a look at the same source. So let me share my screen. The PMP exam content outline. All right, so no need for you to go there, guys. Just stay looking at the screen. I'm going to go there in a second. All right, here we go. So here's the PMP exam content outline. I hope you can see it. So let me just take you through really quick regarding the exam breakdown. And those of you that haven't read it, I'll encourage you to. Pretty much, the people who write the PMP exam, you know, they go through this stuff. So I just saw a chat from Arif with regards to page 551, figure 1-4, examples of project stakeholders. Yes, PPP, project program and portfolio, that's right. The abbreviation is not mentioned in the PMBOK guide. Oh dear. We need to let the PMI know that. Definitely. That is not very obvious. So thank you, Arif. That is one that we need to let them know about. So if you take a look at the screen, here is the breakdown of the exam, folks. So initiating is 13% of the exam. Planning is 24% of the exam. Executing, notoriously the largest piece of the exam, which everybody just can't stand because executing has only got how many? 10, right? Think about it. If every one of those processes is 3.1%, my goodness, that's low-hanging fruit. But a lot of people miss it because no one tells them to read this thing right here. You see, that's why I would highly recommend that you read this before you exam. Not only to get this breakdown, you know, but to get a deeper breakdown. Monitoring and controlling 25% and closing 7%. With that said, I want to remind you that if you're looking at executing on its own, it can bring your exam to its knees. Seriously, executing 31%. That is huge. I've seen a lot of people fail because of executing. And what I usually recommend that people do is study those 8 processes hard. 10 processes, I beg your pardon. I'm obviously still living a bit in the 5th edition, but yeah, 6th edition is 10 processes are from executing. So those 10 processes are in executing: direct and manage project work, the new one, manage project knowledge, you know, manage quality, and all the other ones all the way on down. If I were you, I would put aside one day to just hammer those home because they are bad. Now, a lot of people often overlook initiating and closing, but together they form a lethal cocktail, folks. That's 20%. 20% of your exam is from those are even the worst. They're the worst of all because initiating has 2 processes, closing has 1 process. So can you imagine each one of these having approximately 7% of your exam? Develop project charter, identify stakeholders, and close project or phase. Those are the lethal 3 that make a lot of other people fail. Because 20% of your exam is too huge to play games with. So after you've been through your 35-hour course, after you've been through all of the tools and techniques, all of the inputs, all of the outputs, my next charge to you would be to spend a day on executing and then spend half a day on initiating and closing. Because look at it. If you add these 3 to the 10 here, 13 processes, folks. 13 gives you 50%. That is crazy. 13 out of 49. It does not equate to the same percentage that it would. 13 processes give you 51%. And that's why a lot of people don't do well, because they're spending a lot of time on earned value management and critical path. They get into the exam, they're like, Phil, I couldn't believe my eyes. I only had one critical path problem. And I laugh and I say, of course, I told you. What were you expecting? Were you expecting to have 20 critical path questions or 20 earned value questions? And they just can't believe how trivial, this piece is on the exam. Now, I'm not saying everyone's exam is always, oh, I had one critical path or one scheduling. Some people say, oh, I had 10. So I've actually heard one student said, Phil, you told me. You told me, Phil, that I wouldn't have a boatload of earned value. And this person said his earned value questions were going to about 20, believe it or not. Now, I don't know how these exams are put together. And that's why when Harsh asked that question, it got me going, because you cannot, afford to scrimp on study hours, or, oh, I'm going to study this piece I'll study, this one I won't study. You can't afford to do that, folks, because the exam is on steroids. 1 minute you're having one earned value question. Next minute it could be more than 10. Next minute you're having 2 or 3 network diagrams with free float and total float to boot. So you really cannot predict this exam, But what you can predict, going back to the screen here, what you can predict is the exam content, because the PMI have given it to you. So initiating plus executing plus closing, you're going to have to be crazy with those 13. 13 processes gives you 50%. That is sick. Now take a look at planning. You got 25, giving you 24%. So we need to be careful here, you see, because if we spend all of our time on planning and monitoring and controlling, and all of our focus and attention, then what are you going to do when administrative closure is front and center? What are you going to do? What are you going to do when team issues are front and center on your exam? The variability of the PMP exam is so huge that I wouldn't advise anyone to play games with covering every area really well. But that said, areas that people often overlook, initiating and closing, we need to remind ourselves that together, lethal cocktail. Add it to executing, just forget it. Curtains, end of story. So please pay attention to those percentages, and then going a step further for your performance domains. I know some of you did this 3 or 4 months ago when I made this quite big on YouTube, but I'm not sure how many of you have been back to go through the tasks one by one with a fine-tooth comb. Which ones am I good at? Which ones am I not? Which of these is like Greek to me? That is what you should be. Okay, well, maybe you speak Greek. Which of these is like Martian language to me? That is what you need to be asking yourself. Okay? So initiating, you can see the breakdown, 13% of the exam, planning 24% of the exam, executing 31%, monitoring and controlling 25%, closing 7%, and then the cross-cutting knowledge and skills. Go through that, make sure you know all of these terms. The more terms you know, folks, from here, the better it's going to be for you. Okay, so I want to encourage you, someone who has that link, can you just chat it in for the good folks on the call, so that those that do not have that link can really read this. I really want you guys to read this. PMP exam content outline, non-negotiable. I tell you, I tell you, way back in time, the PMI used to sell this thing for, I believe it was 39 bucks. Now it is free. Because I think people were mad. Why should you sell the syllabus? So there was a lot of backlash. There you go. Okay. So I've typed it in myself. There you go. You've got it. Download that PDF and make sure you study that hard. Okay? Very good. All right, let's go back to our questions. So next question we've got here. I think we've answered all of the basic weightages and so on. So again, Harsh, part 1, part 2, the breakdown, there's no division by that. The division is like what I showed you in the content outline. Question 2, is the material in Agile Practice Guide part of the exam or appendices like X3 etc of the 6th edition? I think he's asking, is the PMBOK guide enough, or do you need to read the Agile Practice Guide? I think really that's what Harsh is asking. And you know, the answer to that, Harsh, is PMI, when they came out with the practice guide and the new exam, there was a little bit of a cautionary note that you could get some questions from the world of Agile. There's been a little bit of waffling on this topic, so I really don't want to dwell on it, but here's what I'll say, all right? If you're going in for the PMBOK Guide 6th edition exam, you got one of these in the mail, right? And you got one of these in the mail. I want to implore you, please, before you take the exam, know about the Agile philosophies. If I'm asking you what a product backlog is and you don't know, it's immediately a red flag. If I'm asking you what is a sprint and you don't know the time frame within which a sprint can occur, it's also a red flag, because it tells me you may not have even read about Agile. Or if I ask you what is an iteration, explain it. You know, explain it from the perspective of someone creating a product or software or whatever, and you cannot break it down. Or I ask you, tell me what a predictive life cycle is. Tell me what an iterative life cycle is. Tell me what it means if someone says agile or change driven. You don't know those, also a red flag. And if I ask you what is agile release planning and you don't know how agile release planning is actually planned, it's also a red flag. If I ask you, let's even go a little bit deeper, because I want to make sure you cover all your bases. I ask you what XP is, you can't explain. I ask you what Scrum is, you can't explain. I ask you what RAD or JAD is, you can't explain. It's a red flag, folks. It's a red flag. It tells me you may not have any agile knowledge whatsoever. So why won't you just open the book, flip the pages over to where these things are talked about, at a high level, it's just some basic things to get you a little bit more bulletproof. Burn down charts, hopefully you know what those are. Story points, you know what those are. Kanban board, you know what that is. You know what, when someone says Kanban, you know what it means? Yeah, you know what a Kanban board is. You know what the common agile practices are, retrospectives. I could go on, but the book actually has it. And it's a very small book. I've been trying to put together a series on YouTube to help folks understand the basics. And I have a couple of videos out there, but there are many more channels that have got, go to the Agile Alliance and just download the Agile Manifesto, read that, and then go back to the Agile Alliance website and scour the website, try to find out what you can to learn more about the Agile mindset. And as you go along, I would not encourage anyone taking the exam to jump into the exam without look, it's such a flimsy book. Why won't you read it? Why not? It's just 100 and something pages. This is an afternoon by the pool, crossing your legs and drinking something nice and highlighting. As usual, you see how I roll. You got to highlight this stuff. Why won't you just take some time out to do that? And then also in here, they've got the breakdown of how the world of Agile kind of maps back to some of the processes in the PMBOK guide. So page 91, page 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, you know, in addition to the other areas. Why wouldn't you? Because what they're breaking down for you here is how you can apply Agile to the PMBOK guide knowledge areas. So I want to encourage you folks, don't listen to people that say, I didn't read this, and guess what? I killed the exam. So go to page 11 of this document, right? Before you exam, I'm not saying they're going to ask you hardcore stuff, but for my peace of mind, if you are my family member, and you're really more like my family members because it's a community, right? I would say, know these things on page 11. Know the philosophies of them. Kanban, Agile, Scrumban, Crystal, and all of those things listed, they're in the book. At least get to know them at a deeper level. And then when it comes to Scrum, because Scrum has a lot of flavors that are similar across the board, like the philosophies are very vivid in Scrum. Endeavor to know a little bit more about Scrum and these things I talked about, the product backlog, the sprint backlog, retrospectives, all of that stuff. The essence of it, I would be more comfortable sending you into the exam with that knowledge. Now, what have I heard since the 6th edition exam started? I have heard through the grapevine, through social media and so on, students say very minimal, if any. Some students say, no, nothing regarding Agile. And some students say, oh, there was the odd question, but nothing I couldn't handle. I don't know if that will change over time. So the only way for me to assure myself that you're going to do a great job is to say, look at page 11, make sure you know that stuff, know the essence of Scrum, go to the Agile Manifesto on the Agile Alliance's site. After you get certified, go do some more. But for now, I think at a minimum, that's what you should do. Spend an afternoon by the pool, read this one, and you know, at least you know if you're going to come across something in Agile, because so many people who are getting into the world of the PMP exam are actually coming from the world of Agile. A lot of people already know this stuff. So that's all like, oh, that's baby stuff. I know that. That's the level I would recommend you to know if you haven't delved into that. Okay? So thank you, Harsh. My goodness, Harsh, your questions took all of about an hour to cover. Appendix X3 of the 6th edition. Harsh is asking, do we need to read Appendix X3? So Agile, Iterative, Adaptive, and Hybrid Project Environments, that's like a continuation of some of the stuff we've been talking about. And I would say, why not? Why wouldn't you? You gotta be harsh with this stuff. That's funny. Harsh, you gotta be harsh with this stuff. You gotta be wild, rugged, dogged, and leave no stone unturned. All right? I don't think Harsh is on because I would have gotten a text or a message from him. But Harsh, you're watching this after the fact. Thank you very much for your questions. All right, let's move on. I think we got a couple more. These won't take that long though. These are gonna go quite quick. So let's move to our next one. This is from Dom. Dom says, hey Phil, I'm interested in being at the meeting. I hope you're on, Dom. Let me know. I sent you the link. And Dom says, the topic I'm currently into is group building. So Dom, I think you're talking about team building. Are you on, Dom? Let me know if you're on. And we can have something more free form, because I think what you mean by group building is team building. So I think you're talking about the manage or develop team process. Right? Dom, are you on? Let me answer this question from Arif first. Arif says, what is the passing overall percentage score? So just Google Angoff cutoff technique. The score, the passing score, it varies on a sliding scale. While I'm waiting for Dom, I'm going to go up there to Dira's question. What do I need to focus on in order to get above average? That's the wrong question, dog. That's the wrong question. Above average? No. You want to get excellent. That's the question. That's the question, Dara. What do I need to focus on in order to get above excellent, to kill it in executing? I think I've actually answered this question implicitly, Dara, because what you need to do is mine for the gold in each executing process. Kind of similar to what I said. Take a day out and get into the essence of the process, each one. So direct and manage project work. What am I doing? What am I getting? What am I using? Where is it going and why? So I don't know if you've watched my video on the get good system, get good. To get good, you need to have the GW squared UD in your head. So what am I doing? What am I getting? What am I using? What am I doing in this process? What am I getting out of this process? What am I using? Which tools and techniques? Which inputs? And then where is that output going? Where's the output going to? It's going to another process. Oh, deliverables is going to control quality. But why? You see, what am I doing? Direct and manage project work. What am I getting? I'm getting deliverables. I'm getting the issue log. I'm getting chatting to me. What is the most obvious one that I'm not saying that comes from direct and manage project work? Let me make sure you're awake. Chat into me. What do you get from direct and manage project work? One of the big three that I've not mentioned. So I mentioned issue log, I mentioned deliverables. Which one am I missing? Tell me. Let me make sure you're awake. Are you guys awake? Tell me. What else do you get from direct and manage project work that I have not mentioned? I mentioned issue log, I mentioned deliverable. Hey, don't open your PMBOK guide, that's not allowed. I'm watching you. Don't open your PMBOK guide, tell me. Okay, Dara, awesome. I'm glad I answered your question. Dom, I'm glad you're here. Very, very good. Awesome. Good. So what is before I go to your question, Dom, can anyone tell me what is the third thing that I have not mentioned comes from direct and manage project work? Third thing. Deliverables and issue log. Arif, I know you know the third one, so tell me, what's the third one? Third one. Mantanona, you are close. Oh dear, Arif, you're close, but that's not it. That's not it. Direct and manage project work. You're still not getting it. Deliverables, issue log, and WP is not D. It is D. It's not I, it is D. Work performance data. Why am I asking you these questions, folks? Because I'm trying to sensitize you to a very important concept. I call it the get good concept. What am I doing? What am I getting? The what am I getting is the main essence of each process. I'm working this process to get this. I'm working direct and manage project work to get this. These three things. Everything else is gravy. Change requests, all that stuff, that's gravy. But deliverables, work performance data, issue log. If you can answer this, okay, so Dara, this is really pretty much all about your question. If you can answer the essence of this for every single process in executing, what am I doing? What am I getting? What am I using? And again, for what am I using, it's like the essence of the inputs and the tools and techniques. So let's back up. Let's go to a process like manage project knowledge. So in manage project knowledge, what are you getting that distinguishes manage project knowledge from everything else? You know the answer to that one? What are you getting from manage project knowledge that you do not get from anywhere else in its raw, pure, initial form? There's something you get. What is it? And then where is it going and why? Some of them just go into project documents, which is annoying because they almost lose their identity. You have to become Sherlock Holmes going through all the project documents in each process. Oh, is that here? Is that here? That's the level, folks. But Dara, don't worry. As you're going through the course you're on, I'm hoping that you're taking out your ITTO catalog, you're jotting down all these things. But really, the Get Good system is key in you really coming away from any process group. What am I doing? What am I getting? What am I using? Where is it going and why? Where is it going and why? Oh, my lessons learned register is going here. Why? My lessons learned register is part of project documents and it's going here. Why? Always know the why behind the why. That is very important. Okay? So I hope that helps you. Oh, Arif said change request. Thank you for being a sport. You know, when I ask these questions, I just want you guys to be on your toes and have fun. I hate doing the death by PowerPoint, so I hope you found that interesting. So let's talk about Dom's question. So Dom, give me some more information, Dom. Can you give me some more info about what aspect of team building or group? You said group building. Let's see what your question was. It says group. I think you mean team building. Yeah, team building. So Dom, team building is in 9.5. 9.5. Okay. And the major thing PMI is trying to tell you is that your team, project team, they may all have different bosses, right? But you as the project manager, you have the task of getting these folks built and developed. And one of the first things you want to think of is the 5 stages of team development that Mr. Tuckman has given us. So you want to think, how can I get these folks to burst through the storming phase as rapidly as possible to get them to the next level, get them out of storming. So forming, everyone's being cute, trying to be good. Storming, now all the dirty laundry begins to air. How do you get people out of storming into getting to the norming stage ASAP? That is what you as the project manager needs to be thinking. And some people have got a history of working on previous projects together. They're already a unified team coming in. So for those people, it's a little bit easier. But what happens when you introduce a few more people to the mix? It might change that dynamic for the worse. So the question is, how do I get the team to break through any barriers and get through storming to norming and performing as quickly as possible? That is really the big question, okay? I'll just give you a few tips and ideas and mindsets about why we need to team build and get to the point where our team is operating as one. John C. Maxwell, he says, you may be good, but you're not that good. You know, meaning that no man is an island and we all need our teams. No matter how good one person thinks he or she is, that is not what makes you get results. What makes you get results is the power of the team. So become a better team member is what he was trying to say in essence, you know. And then secondly, he says, the goal is more important than the role. The goal that you're trying to achieve as a team is more important than the role you're performing. The goal is the bigger, greater good. And he says, if you think about the entire picture, if you think you are the entire picture, you will never see the big picture. So he's just given some ideas here in one of his books about teamwork. He calls it the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. And he just tries to make you see, you know, a few things regarding teamwork and team building and so on. But going back to the PMBOK guide, I think those mindsets and philosophies are pretty much exemplified in what the PMI is talking about. But tell me, Dom, is that in line with what you were asking? Because I didn't know if you wanted me to stay in the PMBOK guide for your exam or to go outside of that. Um, so yes, Arif, the book is gonna, like I said, the book is gonna be out. Why don't you let me know, Arif, in an email, your mailing address? Why don't you do that when we get done with the meeting? That's gonna help. So Dom, tell me, is what I'm talking about helping you? Did you want me to talk about team building in the world of the exam, or did you want me to go outside of the PMBOK guide and give you some more general thoughts and advice for team building? Because I've got a lot more where that came from. If you want me to talk a little bit more about John's philosophies. By the way, I'm a trainer and coach with the John Maxwell team. So John Maxwell is my mentor. If you do not have Minute with Maxwell being sent to you every morning, folks, I want to encourage you to sign up for Minute with Maxwell. I'm going to share that link right here. For those of you that want to take it up a notch and you want to be receiving motivational messages from John where he teaches you about different concepts in the world of leadership, which I think will be just invaluable for your project management. Why don't you sign up on that link? I just shot it to you. It's johnmaxwellteam.com. And sign up for it. I mean, it's totally free. It's totally free from John. And it's daily coaching about various topics. It will uplift you. It will, propel you. Because let's be honest, project managers in the world of real life projects, we're leading. We may be called project manager, but we're leading without authority. And it's all on us to get that influence from people that we are trying to lead, right? The influence comes from a number of things, a number of areas, a number of great things that you put into your piggy bank. And when it accrues, you get that influence as a result of different things. So John's Minute with Maxwell will help you, project managers, to be reminded about various things we often overlook. We're human, we've got stuff going on in the day. We often forget the do's and don'ts of great teamwork or great leadership. So hearing John share this stuff with you, it will really help. So anyway, there's the link. I've sent that. And absolutely, Renee. Renee, how you doing? Good to see you on here. And I hope your studying is coming along really good. Let me know where you are in the process. Charmaine, I didn't even see you. Good to see you. And thank you for chatting that in. It's been a while. I hope your studying is coming on well as well. So, Dom, I'll just share some more stuff. Tell me, Dom, because I'm not clear. I'm trying to understand. Should I stay in PMBOK world for you, Dom, or should I go outside of PMBOK world and talk a little bit more, give you a few more tips from John's book? Okay, let me give you a few goal questions you should ask. Is your priority the team or yourself? Have your actions in the past 1 week shown this? And how do your personal goals fit into the team goals? How can my teammates' goals and my goals come together to fit the big picture? That's another question. Does my attitude fit into this role and the team goal? And what happens to a team when one or more of its members play out a position? You see, if you answer all these questions honestly, you see that teamwork makes the dream work. Each of us has our strong points, our sweet spots, but we shouldn't forget that we all have areas that we are good in or that we can capitalize on. But there's some people that may not be strong in those areas. Doesn't mean that they're bad, they just play a particular role on the team. And we need to appreciate them for what they bring to the table. Okay, let me see one more law I can share with you here that may be beneficial to you. Okay. So this is the law of the chain. The law of the chain. And the law states the strength of the team is impacted by the weakest link. So what is a weak link? What is a weak link in the team? So what are the characteristics of a weak link? And ask yourself, does this describe me? What are the characteristics of a strong link? And for the PM, my question to any project manager would be, how do you take someone who may be a weak link to become a strong link? Are there things that you could do to strengthen the person, to enhance the person's understanding of the project? Or maybe they're just ground rules that need to be put in place for people to understand, what is at play. But here's the overarching concept about team building. Project manager, it is your responsibility. Your team is not operating at maximum efficiency. Don't blame the functional manager. Don't blame the VP of engineering or the VP of marketing. Take ownership. This is why we're project managers, to take all of the different resources, talking about resource management, and to put them in an environment, to nurture them, to give them what they need for them to operate at maximum efficiency. Quick tip for you. Do you know that many antagonistic team members are that way because they've never received a pat on the back from you to say, well done for this. I appreciate what you did on this project phase. Thank you very much. Go the next level. Tell their boss the great things they've done. You're gaining influence by applauding people for jobs well done. So however you get that inroad of influence, you need to do it, project manager. But one thing I'll tell you is this. Influence does not come without a price. You got to pay the price to become influential. And that price may be going the extra mile for someone 5 months before, or a year before, or going out on a limb to help someone, being there to develop someone in a particular skill, be it engineering or healthcare or IT or whatever you're working on, giving people stuff that they can use to grow. All of those are ways you become more influential. Because you first of all need to gain that influence, and then people allow you to build and develop them. So a lot of teams that project managers manage, they're not in a project-based or project-oriented organization. They're either very matrixed, like strong matrix, weak matrix, very matrix, weak matrix, or not that matrix and more project-oriented, but matrix to some degree. So for the PM to gain influence, you got to pay the price. That would be my suggestion. Bringing it back to PMBOK guide though, talking about the 5 stages of team development, Tuckman's ladder, your team building, the reason why you are building the team is for them to burst through this. This is on page 338 in the PMBOK guide, 6th edition, Tuckman's ladder. And it says, although it is common for these stages to occur in order, it is not uncommon for a team to get stuck in a particular stage or regress to an earlier stage. Projects with team members who worked together in the past might skip a stage. So the question is, how do I get my team to be in the performing zone constantly? What do I need to do? What encouragement, what motivation do I need? Because we're human beings. People working on the team, they're human, So they need your intervention to keep them right there in the zone. And the specific tool and technique is interpersonal and team skills, and we're looking at team building under that. And that is on page 341. So it says team building is conducting activities that enhance the team's social relations. You see, it's all about those social relations, and build a collaborative and cooperative working environment. Team building activities can vary from a 5-minute agenda item in a status review meeting to an off-site professionally facilitated event designed to improve interpersonal relationships. The objective of team building activities is to help individual team members work together effectively. Team building strategies are particularly valuable when team members operate from remote locations without the benefit of face-to-face contact. And then it goes on to say informal communication and activities can help in building trust. Informal communication and activities can help in building trust and establishing good working relationships. I went to a company to train once and I said, hey guys, what do you do for team building? What do you do for, synergizing? They're like, work? More work? I'm like, no, come on, you're joking. They're like, no, we're here to work. We're not here to socialize. I'm like, I think you guys have got it wrong. Who's your HR director? Let me have a word with them. But anyway, Dom, I hope this has given you some ideas. Okay? Awesome. No worries, Dom. I'm glad that helps. Okay, now we are at the point where I will answer any questions you might have that I have not addressed, because I think I've maxed all the questions out. Dom, I think your question was the last one. Yep, that was our last question. And we've already done all the inputs and outputs in minutes, so there's really nothing more to speak about, except you want to say hello to my little friend. Pimpy, you want to come out and say hello? Hello. Have you been studying hard? I'll see you on the PMP exam. He's a little bit tame now. You know why he's a little bit tame? He's not gotten enough victims, because fewer people are taking the PMP exam these days. Whenever the exam changes, there's a little bit of a lull in the amount of people taking the exam. So I was taking a look at the difference between last month's numbers that got certified and this month's numbers, and over a period of time. And there are not that very many people that have got certified on the 6th, to be honest. The number has dropped considerably from when we were about changing over to the 6th edition. So Pimpy he's a little bit deflated. He doesn't have enough victims. So he's a little bit discouraged. All right, any questions? Questions, comments, concerns that I can help you answer, folks? Anything else that you would like me to talk about? I will be more than happy to do that for you. Questions, concerns. So Arif, did you check out the learning system to see chapter 6 and 7 extracts, the PDFs? If you are on our course and you have not checked out the PDFs for chapter 6 and 7 to help you understand network diagrams, for the extract from the Project Management Essentials book, go to the LMS, click on that plus button and download those PDFs. But as far as the actual book, those of you who are on the main course, that book is ready and you're going to be receiving that book, but we need to know where to send it to. So if you can do us a favor, those of you who signed up on Vimeo, if you're listening to this, again, send in the proof of your purchase. If you haven't already done that, we're going to be sending you the Project Management Essentials book. Those of you that signed up for the PMP exam prep camp, not the other curricula, it has to be the prep camp, because that is the book that goes along with the course, all right? So Arif, to get started, go download chapter 6 and 7, and then send us the address where we can mail this to you, and our publisher will be sending you a copy of the book in the next month, okay? So questions, comments, concerns. Charmaine, how is your studying going? How is it coming along? Renee, I've not seen you in a while. I hope your studying is coming along well. So Mimi, I've now answered Dira's question, so I hope that helps you. Any other questions or concerns that I can address, folks, before we close? Very good, I'm glad. Do that. And don't forget, do your mind maps, Renee. Do your mind maps like I've spoken about in the past. Mind maps of each process and the core essence of each one. Okay. Well, I want to say a huge thank you to you guys. For those of you who have not been on our calls before or have not witnessed any of our project management training, the website to go to if you really mean business with your PMP exam and you really want to teach the exam a lesson, 2 places will lead you to where you can get some good information. You either go to pmsucceed.com, which is very easy to remember, or you go to praizion.com. Okay, if you go to pmsucceed.com or praizion.com, it will take you to our page where you can sign up for 1 month of training for the PMP exam for $175. Trust me, this is world-class, crazy, off-the-chain training, folks. This will really take you to the level you need to be at. So we've got 1 month access for $175. The price has come down considerably. We've also got 2 months access for $250, 3 months access for $399, and 6 month access for $550. And this all comes with the Project Management Essentials book. Those of you who have signed up in the past, you're going to be receiving the book. And in addition to all of this good stuff, the best is yet to come. We've got more and more rollouts of content and material and goodies, you know, for people who are signed up to the course. So I want to encourage you to do that. If you go back to the main site, we've got 2 other curricula. This one, PMP Exam Power Review, this is a really rapid 16-hour run through. I think we've actually put a lot more content in these days. So we have a 16-hour run through of the PMBOK guide on that one. And we also have Understanding the Guide. Understanding the Guide is around about, I want to say 5 or 6 hours, but this is a really good, it's a really good approach to the very beginnings of the PMBOK guide. So, you know, I would advise that you go there, check out the curricula we have, and see how many of those could help you. The first one is 35 hours. Second one is for people who have already gone for a course but really want to get ready for the exam. And the third one is for people who are just starting out and people who feel the PMBOK guide is too ambiguous, it's too difficult and esoteric. That will put you on the right trajectory. Okay? So go there, check it out, and we look forward to seeing you guys either on our course or just hearing back from you, you know, that you've aced the PMP exam. Even if you don't sign up for the training, let us know how you get along, all right? Charmaine says, can you add the Agile? Yes, and we're in the process of doing that, Charmaine. There's a lot of content on Vimeo that we're going to have to add to the LMS, so we are in the process of doing that. Very good question. Thank you for that. Mimi says, Phil, what are your tips for passing, monitoring, and controlling? So let me see if I can share this one with you. Monitoring and controlling. Let me see if I can pull this up, because I wouldn't do it justice. So I'm gonna share a video with you. Let me see if I can pull this up. The video is called ACE Monitoring and Controlling on the PMP Exam, and it is on YouTube. Because it's funny, a lot of the questions that I get, I've answered them on some previous live stream or the other. I think this was a Facebook live stream. So Mimi, there you go. I think that will help you. I hope I made the content generalized so that it won't be, you know, specific to any edition, but I think that will help you. One more video that I know will help you, Mimi. It is okay. So let me just send it to you. This is titled "Use Your PMP Results to Ace Monitoring and Controlling on the PMP Exam." So let me share that. So Mimi, I hope you're able to access these links. There's the second link, and this should take you all of about an hour to watch for monitoring and controlling the PMP exam. What else? Awesome, very good, Dom. Dom, so for more ideas about this, I want you to take a look at the email. You know, we exchanged emails a little while ago. Just look at that same string of emails, and in the next couple of seconds, you're going to get another email about team building. Do me a favor and download that and look at it. It has nothing to do with PMBOK guide. So this is very specific to general team building in the real world. And for those of you on the call, let me share something with you right here. I also don't want you to go off on a rabbit trail and begin watching videos that are not towards your PMP exam studying. But I'm going to send you a link that is right here on YouTube. The curriculum that I just talked about from my mentor, John C. Maxwell, and the 17 Laws of Teamwork. Do me a favor, save it. If you're studying for PMI, PMBOK guide today, you may not be able to get to it today, but save this. It's on YouTube. Watch those laws. Dom, watch those laws as well. So get the link right here on YouTube, Dom. I think that will really help you as far as building a team. Building a team is not an easy job, you know. Especially if you're a new project manager in a company, you first of all are going to have to win some sort of, you know, respect. In the PMBOK guide, we talk about the different powers of the project manager, you know, different leadership styles. So, you know, if you're an expert, that's always a good way. But if you're not an expert and you're a PM without the technicalities and so on, it could be a challenge as a new PM. But anyway, whatever the case, Dom, those videos will definitely help you to think about leadership and building a team in a pragmatic fashion. So I want to say thank you very much. Thank you, Charmaine, for sending that. Renee, Mimi, and everyone else that has asked questions, Dira, thank you very much. Are there any other questions before I jump off the call? Any other questions? Yeah, I'm sure it will, Dom. So thank you very much. That was a very good question you asked. You know, that was a great question. All right, my friends. Well, thank you very much. Hey, Pimpy, behave yourself. You see, he's trying to be noticed. He does this all the time. He's trying to be noticed. You want to say bye to them? Bye. Okay, bye. See you. See you guys. I'll talk to you probably in a couple of weeks from now, depending on how my schedule looks. But I've got some pretty intense training, PMP live training coming up in Wyoming. So if you're one of my students and you're out there, I hardly know anyone out there, to be honest. I don't think I know any student out in Wyoming, but if you happen to be far out in the middle of nowhere out there, let me know. But I have training coming up in those regions in the next couple of weeks, and other training going on live. So it might be hard to get hold of me, but if we don't see in the next couple of weeks, so hey, no, we're seeing next week, right? Because I will be back, and then we're going to have a meeting with Nick. So those of you that are on any of our curricula, don't forget to sign up. You actually should have gotten a notification about the lessons learned with Nick. It's going to be great. Nick is a powerhouse PMP, you know, that got certified from my classes on the East Coast. All right, folks. Well, nice speaking to you. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, send them in as they come, all right? This recording is going to be available, okay? So you can always watch the recording and go back to some of my rants and the stuff I talked about. Harsh, you're also going to be able to watch the answers to your questions that kind of set me off on a rabbit trail. All right, guys. Take care, and thank you very much. Bye for now.